I need to put this frame here into this hole here. All right, so I am going to cut a hole to put this into here. So I made a bit of a cardboard template of my cutout roughly, but I need to deal with a feature on the deck that actually makes this hatch arrangement quite good. So when they originally built this, you can see here we have a step up so that the frame, there we go, look at this one here, that the frame and the hatch sits up proud, and in particular it's all flush because the deck's got a little bit of curvature in it and all the rest. So this has been done quite well. Close the hatch here and you can see that all of this hatch arrangement is up and above the actual deck, so there's drain off and it all works pretty well. So the issue is I need to cut this lump off, and my lump is a little bit bigger than my cutout. So thankfully I've got a little bit of return flange here that covers it all, so I should be all okay. But yeah, but I got to cut it flush rather than through the thing, so my hole should technically be a bit big, and where the foam and everything comes up underneath, I'll then cut that out to suit my hatch, whatever's remaining. But anyway, I'm going to do some cutting and grinding and chop some stuff out. You can see this is all glued in now. This was all sanded and trimmed to shape. Obviously I had to cut the hole in the deck to accommodate this. So it was a fair bit of effort cutting this hole out to get this to sit in here. So yeah, you can see this is flush on the inside now, so that the blade is the constant thickness there. But yeah, we'll go outside and have a look at that. So here's one I prepared earlier. So yeah, you can see that I've trimmed that sealing blade, so it's a constant thickness all the way around, which is all nice and good. But yeah, here it is glued into the deck, and you can see it's pretty much flush. There's a few not exactly flush bits because there's camber and twist in the deck, so I've had to adjust with a little bit of extra grindies to get the middle bits to sit down, and I'll fair that out a little bit. But generally speaking, it's pretty flush, especially when you compare it to the other ones. Yeah, so it's gone from looking like that to now looking something a bit like that. Alright, that's what it looks like with the actual hatch in there. I didn't cut this out because Anna wants to keep that in there for the moment to keep the potential rain out. So I'll trim that up later. I can actually paint all the hatch until I actually get the acrylic lens to put in there. It's really struggling to find acrylic suppliers here in Europe at the moment. So if anybody knows or anybody has an acrylic supplier here in Europe would be good. The Spanish ones that I keep contacting don't seem to reply to me, so that's being a bit of a drama. So I found a couple, particularly locally, which say that they'll actually do stuff for boats as well. So it's like, super cool, excellent, but I send them messages and I don't get messages back, so that's a bit of a pain at the moment. But yeah, so if you happen to be someone that is involved in the business that can supply me some round bits of acrylic for those, or some rectangular bits of acrylic for these, because yeah, I'm doing the side port lights as well. So I've gone from port lights to the hatches, and of course I need new lenses for those. Anyway, let's go and look at the hatch from outside. Okay, installation. So I think I've shown the hatch rim going in, yeah. Now you'll see the actual fitting of the hatch lid going on here. So I've made the lid, and now I've got a bunch of spacers and little jigs to make sure everything's aligned and that the holes for the hinges go in the right place. And it's the holes for the hinges that's the really important part here, because where these holes are drilled determines where this hatch sits inside the rim. So there's a lot of little 3D printed parts and jigs. So I've got 3D printed spacers. So these are my 3mm spacers. So I know that my gap around the hatch is exactly 3mm. I've got my 3D printed gadget for holes, for the jig holes. Hang on, let me lift this out and show you that a bit better. Right. It has actually been raining here, so it's been good that my system and the dual drains work incredibly well. So even without seals, again, our hatch systems are working. So here you can see I have 3D printed this jig arrangement for drilling holes, and these are this jig is to set up, it sits inside my rim here, and I have a position where the drill goes down and marks where the drill goes, and to drill the holes in the correct position for the hinge in the frame. Because it's a single, this also goes onto the hatch like we just had it. I'm running out of hands here. Goes onto the hatch here. See my 3mm spacers here. You can see look, I've even printed 3mm on it. May not be able to see it in the sun. 3mm. Okay. So 3mm spacers in the front as well. That's in there. That's in there. That's gone in the hole. The 3mm spacer in there. Like that. Just to make sure everything's all good and hunky-dory, so that this is in the right position for me to now get the drill and drill holes in here, and then that will put the hinge in exactly the right position. So this is where 3D printers have absolutely changed the game in being able to make these parts more accurate. Not only can I 3D print the molds, which is essentially a CNC additive manufactured mold, but I can make all these little jigs and things for drilling holes and putting the hardware in the correct position. So it's a real game changer as far as custom one-off building is concerned. We can do things that just weren't really feasible in the past. You know, you wouldn't bother trying to make this in the past unless you had hundreds of items to build. Not, you know, what have I got? 2, 4, 6, 8 hatches, 6 hatches. 6 hatches to do? 2, 4, 6, yeah, 6 hatches to do. you wouldn't bother with this sort of stuff because there would be as much time and effort spent making this as it would be making a hatch, so you wouldn't bother. But yeah, 3D printing it now, yes, there is a bit of time involved designing it and making sure it works, and I had to modify it a little bit because I forgot it would have to slide on this, blah 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 blah. But yeah, game changer, absolute game changer. So now what I'll do is I'll get the drill and I'll just drill little holes, and I'm going to drill the pilot holes, not the full size holes. Okay, so this is our not so fancy looking painted side of our boat. But what I'm going to show you that I haven't shown you for the previous 5 of is the new hatches that are going in the side here. So not only have I been updating the hatches on the deck, I have been actually updating, most importantly, the side hatches here. Well, they were Portlights originally Luma Portlights. It's a great big bucket full of them there. And why have I updated these? Because these leaked like nobody's business, and the moment it rained, they had to be shut. Otherwise, there was water pouring in the boat. They opened inwards, which was really nice because the lens opened inwards, so that meant nothing could catch them on the outside, but also meant they were almost completely useless, particularly in the Caribbean when we were on anchor and not many lines to catch them. The moment there was any sort of inkling of rain or water dripping down the deck, water would run straight inside the boat. So big changes. I've turned them into a hatch rather than a portlight. Okay, you're probably asking what the difference is, but the difference is one opens in, one opens out. Outward opening ones gave me a nice opportunity to create here we go. Here is the hatch gutter. What it means is when that's in position, it will actually catch the rainwater and all the rainwater. Let's see if I can do this without dropping it in the water. So the water will drip down here, and 9 times out of 10 will roll under the lip here, follow this, hit the gutter, roll around, and then just drain straight out the bottom. Nice. If it rains really hard or we get a big wave, the lens that goes in here, the plastic, is actually dead flush with here. And I've actually got a little chamfer coming on that as well, so that when it rains, it hits the lens and then follows, hopefully, the face surface, which means that it then just runs over the front of the lens. What we can see is I've got these temporary lenses in here. All right, just a bit of signboard stuff that we found in the bin, and they work extremely well. There's no seal or anything in or on there. The couple of downpours that we have had, we actually haven't had to have anything other than these little lenses just sitting in the position just to blank the hole off, and the rest of it works brilliantly. So yeah, big win there. That was me being bad YouTuber and not showing you the previous 5, but you know, I'll show you this one. So to fit them, to make this, obviously laminating this was exactly the same as laminating the hatches. All right, made it on the mold, on the table, blah, blah, blah. Then I need to obviously mark it out. Marked it out on the side of the hull here. These actually, I took the opportunity to make them just a fraction bigger than the original one. So I need to cut out the hole a little bit bigger. I designed the new hatch to be the same as the old hatch, lens opening, plus a little bit top and bottom, because Anna was complaining a little bit, she wanted a bit more window to look out, so I made them a little bit bigger. But fore and aft, the original boat builders actually cut the hole a lot bigger than what the original hatch was. So fore and aft, I've got a little bit of a gap to play with. So you can see I've marked these out. Yeah, can I see the marking out? Yeah, you can see the pencil lines there. So now I'll go and get the jigsaw and I'll cut this out, and then I've got to mark it out a bit more and taper I've got to taper the hull a little bit to accommodate for the taper in the flange. Alright, there's a taper. There you go. So. Alright, okay, get the bits. Got my little alignment lines lined up, and I could probably zoom in on that and make that work. You'll see I've got my clamps, it's holding it in place. And of course it was hatch frame number 6 that I've done that sort of worked out the best and the easiest after a fair bit of practice. Might need to pull the thingy so that the resin goes in there. Okay, gonna have to put you guys down so that I can fix that little bit up. Sure, I've got glue on my sealing blade because I did a little bit of fairing job as well. All right, paddle pop stick, tidy. Last little details up. Yeah, there it is, in place.
So there it is. All the little hatches in. Side hatches in. Those hatches up the front. Exploded water heater. Because it's a boat and things. Oh look, here we go. Here's our boat builder trimming his toenails.
That's what boat building is for.
I'm pretty sure that's not what they're for. Busted. Beautiful. So, final words on hatches.
Just got lots more to do.
There you go. This is inside. So, 1, 2, and the third one is in the aft banyo. So number 3 is in here. There it is, all tidy, fed up. We can hopefully put some primer on this outboard hull shortly. That's all done. Oh, did you talk a bit about the drainage things, Shane? Oh, well, there they are. So, last little bit before we sign off is probably few of you have sort of questioned, what are we going to do about drainage? So these are 3D printed drainage holes that Shane's put in. So there's 1, 2, and they exit off the side of the boat here. We were lucky we could sort of integrate this aft drainage one here into the daggerboard case. So that one's nice. So just trying to keep the aesthetic outside as neat as possible. I think the plan is at this stage, and big caveat there because things always change, but we have some little scraps of foam. I'm not quite sure what thickness, but basically we're going to try and just fair it in a bit with the foam so that it's just a bit nicer. Oh, I should have picked up a better bit to show you, but essentially just fill in the gap a little so that we don't have a bit of a funny looking drainage holes and too much sort of different surfaces going on. If you have a look in the one where we've finished it off, yeah, you can see because it was quite close to the outboard side, it was pretty neat and that wasn't too intrusive, but sort of getting all of this and sanding around all of that, different shapes and things, is actually really tricky. So to speed up the process, we think we'll just fill it with a bit of foam and fair it into the hole a bit better. So that's the plan now.